Welcome to DSEJ Home Classes, a digital initiative by Directorate of School Education, Jammu. Dear students, I am Jyoti Diwan. I am going to teach you a poem After ApplePicking by Robert Frost, Class 12th, Chapter 9. After ApplePicking is a poem by American poet Robert Frost in full. Robert Lee Frost. He was born on March 26, 1874 in San Francisco, California. He was one of the most celebrated poets in America. As a well-known poet, he was highly honored during his presence on earth, receiving 4 Pulitzer Prizes. This poem of 42 lines was written and published in north of Boston, Frost's second poetry collection. The poem does not conform strictly to particular form, though it's loosely iambic pentameter. The poem describes a pastoral scene of New England life in autumn. The narrator is recalling his day spent picking apples on a ladder as he falls asleep. Dear students, now let us study the poem in detail. My long two-pointed ladder sticking through a tree towards heaven still, and there's a barrel that I didn't fill beside it, and there may be 2 or 3 apples I didn't pick upon some bough, but I am done with apple picking now. In these opening lines, the poet actually describes the final part of the poem. The work of apple picking is almost finished. The ladder is still resting against the tree. It can be pointed towards the sky. Barrels are not still filled. Most of the apples have been plucked. There may be 1 or 2 apples left here and there. He is not going to pluck anymore. He has finished his work. The poet realizes that he has left behind a ladder sticking through a tree, as well as plenty of ripe apples. It's the end of the day that the poet is done with apple picking. The ladder is a symbol of Jacob's ladder, which takes us to heaven. In the Bible, Jacob dreamed and saw a ladder set on the earth. The top of it reached to heaven, and the angels of God used to climb and descend on it. That's why these lines refer to poet's thought about his death. Dear students, sticking through and done with are used as phrasal verbs. Bhav. Bhav means a large branch of a tree. पेड़ की एक बड़ी सी टहनी on which the remaining apples are hanging. A sense of winter sleep is on the night. The scent of apples I am dozing off. I can't rub the strangeness from my sight I got from looking through a pane of glass. I skimmed this morning from the dinking trough and held against the word of hoary glass. In these lines, the poet was overpowered with sleep. He was dead tired. The night was beginning to feel like winter. The fragrance of apples was all round him. He was falling asleep. When he woke up in the morning, he couldn't rub the strange images that are seen through the transparent crust that the poet picked up from the surface of drinking trough. In these lines, the poet is describing his sweet feelings of fragrance, tiredness, sleepiness, and satisfaction that a farmer feels after a good harvest. He now doesn't want to see the old, unwanted, hoary grass. Pane of glass means the covering of snow looks like a glass window pane. Dear students, poetic device metaphor is used here. The words drowsing off, got from, looking through, and held against are used as phrasal verbs. It melted and I let it fall and break, but I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell. and I could tell what form my dreaming was about to take. Magnified apples appear and disappear, stem end and blossom end, and every fleck of frosted showing clear. Dear students, in these lines, the sheet of ice melted and the speaker allowed it to fall down from his hands and break into pieces. But he was feeling sleepy. In this sleepy state, he was able to tell what form his dreaming was to take place, or what kind of dreams he was about to see in his sleep. Apples of an enlarged size appear and disappear everywhere, at the end of the stem and at the end of the flowering part of the tree. The poet sees even the most tiny apples and their colors clearly in the dream. He is confused about what kind of dreams he would have in his sleep. Magnified means big, fleck means small mark or spot, russet means reddish brown color, mostly known as rust color. My Instep arch not only keeps the egg, it keeps the pressure of a ladder round. I feel the ladder sway as the boughs bend, and I keep hearing from the cellar bin the rumbling sound of loud and loud of apples coming in. In these lines, the poet tells us about some of the after effects of apple picking. He says that his feet not only feel pain but also the pressure of ladder round. He picks the apples, boughs bend down, and with these movements, ladder also seems to sway. Dear students, see the line, the rumbling sound. The poet turns to a description of the sound. From the cellar bin, he keeps hearing the rumbling sound of carts carrying loud and louds of apples. The poet says that laborers carry the apple barrels and empty them in the cellar bin. He can hear the sound of apples as they are put there. He feels it like a rumbling sound. Instep arch means the curve on the bottom of the feet. Ladder round means the round step of the ladder. सीढ़ी के बीच में जो पांव रखने की जगह बनी होती है. Sway means to move to and fro, यानी कि झूलना. And ladder round and rumbling sound are also used as compound words. For I have had too much of apple picking. I am overtired of the great harvest I myself desired. There were 10,000 fruit to touch, cherish in hand, lift down and not let fall. In these lines, the poet is feeling tired from picking so many apples. He had desired a big harvest. He has plucked uncountable apples. 1,000 and 1,000 means uncountable. The word 1,000 has been repeated twice. The poetic device used is a hyperbole. It has been to stress that apple trees are countless. He had to hold the apples very carefully in his hands so that not to let any of them fall down on the ground. Now he is fed up with the bumper harvest. He doesn't want anything to do with the apples. Dear students, overtired means extremely tired. Cherish means to protect or to care with love. For all that struck the earth, no matter if not bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap as of no worth. In these lines, the poet says Apples are not to be allowed to fall from hands of the poet because the fallen apples are treated as rejected, even if they may not have been bruised or spiked with stubble, means if they are slightly cut or if they are pricked by the grain stubble, they will become useless. They are not regarded as eatable fruit. They are set aside in heaps to be used for making cider, that is an alcoholic drink made with apples, means apple beer. Bruised means when something is emotionally hurt. Spiked means with sharp point, यानी कि कोई नोकदार चीज. One can see what will trouble the sleep of mine, whatever sleep it is. Were he not gone, the woodchuck could say whether it's like his long sleep, as I describe its coming on, or just some human sleep. In these concluding lines of the poem, the poet guesses as to what will trouble, what will disturb his sleep, whatever kind of sleep it may be. He can see what will disturb his sleep after harvest. The woodchuck would see if the poet's sleep is like its own long sleep or a short and disturbed human sleep. The poet sounds like he would be disappointed with the human sleep. यहाँ पर देखो बच्चों, पोइट ने वुडचक को मेंशन किया है. वुडचक, they build underground burrows which lead to a winter den for hibernating. They belong to the family of squirrels. They are found mostly in North America. Dear students, now look at the summary. A guy has been picking apples all day up on a ladder. He hasn't picked every last apple, but night is coming and he is tired. He remembers the strange vision he had that morning when he looked at a bunch of grass through a sheet of ice he removed from a drinking trough. It looked like the world was melting, and then he dropped the piece of ice. He may or may not be falling asleep as he has these thoughts. He thinks of how he will dream about apples. He is getting sick of harvesting apples. There are so many of them, and he has to be careful not to let them fall. If an apple falls, he has to be chucked into the heap to use for making cider. Those cider apples are considered almost worthless. He imagines that these thoughts about worthless apples and dropping things will haunt his sleep. He wonders if it will be a long, deep sleep like the hibernation of a woodchuck, or whether it will just be a normal human sleep. Dear students, let us explore the metaphors in the poem. The entire poem could be viewed as an extended metaphor for the actual process of writing poem. Apples he didn't pick, poetical ideas that the poet has chosen not to pursue. Magnified apples, lessons and themes that the poet uses in different works appear and disappear. Stem end and blossom end, the development of ideas from beginning to end. Load of apples coming in, his collected body of the poems to this point in his career. Dear students, now let us come to the tone of the poem. The tone of after apple picking creates the theme of the poem. There are two main tones, a happy one and a serious one. They come together to create the theme of desires and significance in life. The poem begins with a happy tone. The old man is happy and welcomes his fate of death. He shows this by saying things like he is ready for heaven. He is finally Done with picking apples. In line 8 he says, I am dozing off. He is indicating that he has finished everything planned and is ready for his judgment. At the final judgment, the destiny of the wicked and non-believers will be in the control of Almighty. God will assess everyone according to their soul's status. जिस तरह से हम कहते हैं एक दिन ईश्वर के घर में सबकी सुनवाई होनी है. That's what the word judgment means. This tone sets up the theme of desires and the significance in life, but does not complete it. The latter part of the poem is sad. He is finally accepting his fate when he realizes that he was wrong and there were things he wished to complete. Line 9 says, I can't rub the strangeness from my sight. This is Frost's way of saying that he is trying desperately to erase the incomplete desires from his mind, which he is unable to do. The fact that he didn't complete his dreams bothers him and makes him begin to think his life had no meaning. Now, let us have a look at the rhythm and diction of the poem. The rhythm and diction Robert Frost uses in After ApplePicking dwells the theme of the poem. Most of the poem has a smooth iambic rhythm, such as line 2, toward heaven still. This is an iambic rhythm because the stress goes on the second syllable of most of the words. Dear students, see the iambic rhythm. The iambic pentameter is a type of metric line used in traditional English poetry. पोइम में कितनी लाइंस होनी चाहिए, कितनी लाइंस में उसको डिवाइड करना है, ग्रामेटिकली स्ट्रक्चर कैसे देना है, लाइन कहाँ ब्रेक करनी है. It's a style of writing in lines of 10 syllables with emphasis of the second, fourth, sixth, eighth and 10th syllable. See the words toward, the stress goes on W, heaven, the stress goes on V, still, the stress goes on T. Frost uses this rhythm in a clever way to show the narrator's dozing off but waking up because of his determination to complete life's desires. The old man was on his deathbed, clinging to life to finish those desires which he never accomplished. Frost uses diction to develop the theme of meaning to life in his poem. Words like heaven in line 2, sleep in line 15 and dreaming in line 17 are curtailed. They all start the development in the significance to life by referring to a life after this one. They all are words used to describe death and the place that follows. Heaven represents the heaven, while sleep and dreaming refer to his inevitable death. Frost develops a sad mood by using other words in the poem. Words such as overtired in line 28 and struck the earth in line 33 create a sad sense. These words represent the regrets of the old man. Overtired shows that he has finished chasing his dreams and must put them behind him, and struck to the earth means that those dreams are now unreachable. The rhythm and diction both are Frost's way of telling people that they should make the most of their lives and do whatever they aspire to before it's too late. See the auditory imageries in the poem. After apple picking, the rumbling of loud of apples coming in, mowing, the scythe whispering to the ground, the runaway, the miniature thunder, the clatter of stone. An old man's winter night, the roar of trees, the crack of branches beating on a box, stopping by woods on a snowy evening, the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. बैरल्स में एप्पल्स डालने की आवाज़, घास काटने की आवाज़, इंसेक्ट्स की विस्परिंग की आवाज़, हल्की सी थंडरिंग की आवाज़, स्टोन्स की आवाज़ और पेड़ों के गरजने की आवाज़, ब्रांचेस के क्रैकिंग की आवाज़. All these are auditory imageries used in the poem. Dear students, if you remember the Jacob's ladder, you will never forget this poem. I hope you liked the poem and understood it well. Stay safe and healthy. Thanks.